On my channel, I talk a lot about social media algorithms, and someone recently asked me what is an algorithm, so I wanted to do a video on that. And it's worth pointing out that you have to ask the question, what is an algorithm to whom? Because if you say what is an airplane to like a traveler, that's a very different question than what is an airplane to like an aerospace engineer. To an aerospace engineer, the answer to that question may involve like aerodynamics and mechanics and all this stuff that is completely irrelevant to the traveler. To the traveler, an airplane is a mode of transportation that gets you from one place to another. And I'm an economist, I'm not a computer scientist, so I'm going to try to give you a sense of when I talk about algorithms on social media platforms, what am I talking about on this channel? And in particular, when we're talking about what is an algorithm to an economist, it's really about how does that algorithm channel money? How does that algorithm channel attention? How does that algorithm channel dollars? And how does that algorithm channel investment? So that's going to be my perspective. But first, let's look at a dictionary definition because it's actually pretty simple. So just reading from the Wikipedia website, we have, in mathematics and computer science, an algorithm is a finite sequence of well-defined computer-implemented instructions, typically to solve a class of problems or to perform a computation. So you could have an algorithm that's super simple, like give me the per capita income by county. And that algorithm might add up the income of everyone in the county and divide by the total number of people in the county, and that's it. It's just like a simple mathematical calculation. Not that interesting. Now, the type of algorithm that I usually talk about on this platform is one where you basically give a robot a goal and you say, go off, do your own thing, and engage in some sort of guess and check process until you get closer and closer to that goal. And usually the goal is something like maximize clicks, maximize time spent watching YouTube videos, maximize money for the social media company. Now, one thing that makes this kind of algorithm interesting is the fact that we don't always know what the computer is doing when it goes off and does all this guessing and checking. So there are some worries that it could be taking advantages of our weaknesses or just doing things that if a real human were doing the guessing and checking, the human would consider certain things unethical. But the robot's just going off and sort of going on autopilot, so we don't always know exactly what means the robot's using to maximize things. Now, if we want to visualize the process a little bit, we might think about A/B testing. So what is A/B testing? A/B testing is where the algorithm decides, okay, I want to know if a blue screen or yellow screen is more likely to get people to click. So it literally does a little controlled experiment where it randomly assigns half the population to the blue screen and half the population to the yellow screen, and it just looks at the correlation. Which one of those screens gets more clicks? If it's the blue screen, then it says, okay, it seems people are responding better to the blue screen. What about a little bit darker shade of blue versus a lighter shade of blue? And again, it will randomly assign people to one of those two treatments and see which one performs better. So it's really sort of zeroing in on what is going to be the most effective. And it's going to try a whole bunch of things. It's going to see what about thumbnails with people in them versus things. What about emotion words in the title versus mechanical words? And the robot is really good at pattern recognition. It has software that sort of looks around and notices patterns. So it's going to particularly notice things that are associated with more clicks, or in particular, more rich clicks. And it might say, is this a correlation or a causation? When it notices those patterns, in which case it can do some of these experiments based on hypotheses that it's getting from analyzing a whole bunch of data. And that's a pretty good starting place for doing these experiments. And of course, algorithms can be controlled by people, so maybe the scientists are going to give the robots a hint about what kinds of patterns to notice, but they don't have to give the robot too many hints because the robot is just so good at coming up with its own hypotheses based on patterns that it recognizes in the data of millions and millions of users. And when I talk about pattern recognition, the computer can actually cluster people. So it can say, okay, people who like gardening content, we notice that they're kind of clustered together with people who like vitamin content and fitness content or whatever. And it can sort of do these experiments with hypotheses with clusters of things that it notices. So if, for example, rich people really like golfing videos, it might notice that people who like golfing also kind of like aerobic fitness videos, and they also kind of like sailing videos. And the clusters that are all around golfing, which we know is going to be associated with rich people, those might be good places for the algorithm to sort of experiment with if it's going to come up with hypotheses for these A/B experiments. So when I refer to algorithms on social media, I'm really talking about the algorithms where the computer scientists give the robot a goal and let the robot go off on its own and do a bunch of guessing and checking to try to optimize profits. That's it.